Elias Ward stood in the grand throne hall of the Zalorian Empire, the air thick with perfume, glowing lights and alien musicians playing soft crystal tunes. The hall stretched wider than any human stadium he had ever seen, built from silver stones that reflected the faces of thousands of guests. They had gathered to honor him, a single human soldier, who saved their fleet from total destruction during the Battle of Nebula Gate. Most humans would never believe this day could happen. Aliens once feared humans as violent and unpredictable, but today the Emperor himself honored Elias with the highest reward they could give, a reward beyond medals, beyond wealth, beyond rank. They offered him a bride from the noble houses of the Empire. The Emperor raised his staff and the hall went silent like space before a storm. His voice echoed through the chamber. Human warrior Elias Ward, you saved our people from annihilation. According to ancient tradition, you may choose any bride from our royal families as your reward. Gasps filled the room. 800 alien women stood in formation, dressed in shimmering gowns that sparkled like galaxies. Their skin tones ranged from sapphire blue to bronze gold. Some had glowing eyes, some had wings like folded glass. All were genetically enhanced to be perfect in beauty, power and bloodline. Many whispered, the human will choose Lady Serana, she is the most beautiful. Others argued, no, he will choose Lisa, she is heir to the northern fleets. Some even laughed. Imagine, a human commanding royal blood by marriage. Elias moved slowly, not following their eyes, not looking at the dazzling beauty in front. His gaze moved to the back, where one woman stood alone, away from the lights. Her dress was plain gray, worn and rough, her skin bore scars, her hair tied simply. She did not join the others, she kept her head down as if she wished no one noticed her. Her name was Ravani. Nobles avoided her, some even stepped aside like she carried disease. One whispered loudly on purpose, why is she even here? Her face is ruined, her lineage worthless. Another sneered, if the human chooses her, the empire will be a joke. Laughter rippled across the hall like poison. But Elias saw something different, not her scars, not her simple clothing, but her eyes. They carried sadness, fear, and strength mixed together like a star ready to explode. She looked like someone who suffered too long in silence, someone who did not want power or glory, only peace. Elias walked toward her. Every step he took silenced more voices. At first people thought he was passing by her. Then he stopped right in front of her. Ravani lifted her eyes slowly, surprised, like she could not believe a human or anyone would stand so close willingly. Elias spoke softly, do you choose me? He asked, but it sounded more like he asked if she chose herself. Ravani's lips trembled. She did not answer for long moments, then she whispered, why me? You could have anyone, they are beautiful, powerful, royal. Elias shook his head gently. I do not want beauty chosen by others, I want truth. The hall exploded in shock. Some nobles shouted in anger, some laughed louder. One royal captain yelled, he insults the empire, choosing a useless woman as reward. The emperor raised his hand to silence them, his expression unreadable. Ravani lowered her head again, her voice shaking. You do not understand, human, choosing me brings more than you see, more than you can carry. Elias nodded. Maybe, but I still choose you. He placed his hand on her shoulder, a gesture of respect, not possession. Gasps echoed like thunder. The emperor stepped forward, his voice heavy. The human has chosen, so it shall be. But Ravani did not smile. Instead, her hands clenched tightly, as if she held a secret that could destroy everything. She whispered under her breath so quietly that only Elias heard, you do not know what comes with me. That night, after the celebration ended, Elias returned to his assigned quarters. The hall's quiet, cold, and filled with mirrored walls. Ravani walked beside him like a shadow, saying nothing, eyes lowered the entire time. When they reached the door, she paused. You think I was alone in life, she whispered, but I was never alone. Elias frowned. What do you mean? Ravani hesitated, her expression full of fear. I have a daughter, she finally confessed. A daughter I kept hidden from everyone. Elias blinked, surprised. Before he could respond, a small voice echoed from behind a pillar. The voice was soft, curious, and slightly afraid. Mother, is the human a good person? Elias froze, Ravani froze. The hall fell silent like space before a star dies. And a small shadow stepped into the light. The small shadow stepped forward, revealing a young girl no older than 7. Her eyes were bright silver, glowing softly like distant stars. Unlike other alien children, her features looked almost human, yet not fully. Her hair had streaks of shimmering white, and faint symbols pulsed across her skin like living constellations. She held a worn blanket close to her chest, hiding half her face as she stared at Elias with cautious eyes. Ravani moved quickly, placing herself between Elias and the child, her body tense like a shield. Lyra, stay behind me, she whispered. The girl peeked around her mother's arm, studying Elias without fear, only curiosity. Elias knelt slowly to appear smaller, his voice calm. Your name is Lyra, right? The girl nodded. Mother told me humans are strong and kind. Elias blinked, surprise crossing his face. She did? Rivani looked away. I told her stories to give her hope. Elias noticed the emotional weight in those words, not fantasy but survival. He finally asked the question burning in his mind. Why is she hidden? Why was she never mentioned in the ceremony? Rivani's throat tightened as if she swallowed pain, because if they knew she still lives, they would take her away or worse. Elias frowned deeply. Why? She is only a child. Rivani shook her head. Not to them. Lyra stepped forward, ignoring her mother's fear. She looked directly at Elias. Do you know why people laughed at Mother? Elias stayed silent, listening. Lyra continued. They think she is weak, but they do not know she is the only one who escaped. Escaped from what? Elias asked quietly. Rivani's shoulders trembled. From the Imperial Purge. The name sent a cold wave through the corridor. Elias had heard rumors. A secret operation years ago targeting bloodlines considered too powerful or uncontrollable. It was erased from public records, denied by the council. Anyone who spoke of it disappeared. Rivani looked up, her eyes wet but steady. Lyra is the reason they tried to kill me. Her blood holds something ancient, something they wanted to erase. Lyra pressed her tiny hand on the mirrored wall, and the metal shimmered like liquid responding to her touch. Runes glowed across its surface, forming shapes Elias had never seen. Symbols from a forgotten age. Rivani gasped. Lyra, stop. But the symbols continued forming, showing something like a star map. Elias took a step back, stunned. She can activate technology? Rivani nodded slowly. Not just technology, she can command systems older than this empire. Elias stared at the child. What is she? Rivani answered with broken honesty. She is my daughter, and she is the heir of a bloodline the empire tried to bury. Before Elias could ask more, alarms echoed down the corridor, red lights flashed, mechanical doors sealed, and a robotic voice announced. Unauthorized energy signature detected, initiating security lockdown. Rivani's face turned pale. They detected her, we must move. Elias grabbed his gear instinctively while Lyra clung to her mother. Footsteps thundered in the distance. Guards rushing their way. Elias whispered urgently, they think she is a threat. Rivani shook her head. No, they think she is a weapon. The corridor lights suddenly dimmed, replaced by a purple glow. A tall figure appeared at the end of the hall, armored in obsidian plating. His presence radiated power and authority. Rivani froze, fear gripping her like chains. Elias noticed and pulled her back. Who is that? Elias whispered. Rivani's voice cracked. General Vorik, the one who tried to kill us. The general's voice boomed through the hall, smooth but filled with cruelty. So the human chose the exile, how poetic. He took a step closer, eyes locking on the child, and the offspring breathed still. Good, I will finish what I started. Guards surrounded them, weapons drawn. Elias stepped forward, placing himself between the soldiers and Rivani's family, his voice cold and steady. You will not touch them. Vorik laughed, sharp and amused. Do you think you can stop an empire alone? You are only human. Elias glared back. I saved your empire once, I can destroy it if I have to. Rivani pulled Lyra close, tears forming in her eyes. Elias, you do not understand. If Lyra awakens her full power, she might not stop at saving herself. Lyra's eyes began to glow brighter, energy rising around her like a storm preparing to break. Vorik raised his hand and shouted, seize them. And the guards charged forward, weapons drawn, energy crackling through the air as battle erupted in the palace corridor. The corridor exploded with chaos as guards rushed forward, energy blades glowing bright blue. Elias reacted instantly, pulling Rivani and Lyra behind him while activating his human-made combat shield. The shield flickered to life, forming a curved barrier of golden light. The first guard slammed into it, bouncing back like he hit a wall of steel. Vorik lifted his hand again, ordering the soldiers forward with a cruel grin. Take the child alive, kill the human if he resists. Rivani gasped, holding Lyra close. Elias, we must run, we cannot fight them all. But Elias stood firm, eyes hard. You are not running alone, not while I breathe. Energy blasts filled the hallway, bright streaks of plasma shooting toward them. Elias angled his shield, deflecting shots that scorched the walls. The palace trembled with each impact. The guards moved like a trained pack, closing in from all sides, their armor bearing the imperial crest, polished and deadly. Lyra looked up at Elias with wide silver eyes, her small voice trembling. You are protecting us. Why? Elias glanced at her mid-battle, because sometimes choosing someone means you fight for them. Ravani stared at him, stunned by his courage. He was not bound to her by duty or blood, yet he protected them like family. She whispered, "No one has defended us like this since before the purge." Vorik marched forward slowly, letting his soldiers soften the resistance. His presence carried arrogance, each step echoing like judgment. "You think courage can save you? I erased bloodlines stronger than yours." Elias narrowed his eyes. "Then you already know the truth. You're afraid of what she can become." Vorik's smile faded slightly, but he kept walking. Two guards leaped at Elias simultaneously, but he moved with human precision, grabbing one by the wrist and slamming him into the other. They fell in a heap, armor cracking against metal floors. Elias grabbed a discarded spear blade and spun it in his hand, ready for the next wave. Lyra flinched as the ground vibrated, her eyes glowing brighter. The symbols on her skin pulsed like living circuits. Energy hummed in the air around her. Ravani noticed and held her shoulders, whispering urgently, "Lyra, not now. If you release your power here, you will bring the whole palace down." Lyra shook, tears forming in her eyes. "I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want Mother safe." Ravani hugged her tightly. "Then stay with me. Let Elias protect us." But the palace lights flickered again, responding to Lyra's presence. Even when she tried to suppress her abilities, the walls themselves seemed to awaken, ancient technology reacting to the girl's heartbeat. Vorik stopped walking, his smile gone. So the legend was true. The child carries the ancient code. Elias frowned. "What code?" Vorik raised his blade. "The blood of origin." Ravani shouted, "Stop speaking like she is a weapon." Vorik laughed coldly. "She is the key that unlocks forgotten human dominion, and the Empire will not allow that power to rise again." At his command, the soldiers activated stun nets, crackling with binding energy. Elias struck them down one by one, but more kept coming. He knew he could not win a prolonged fight. "We need to move now," he growled. He grabbed Ravani's hand and pulled her down a side corridor, Lyra running beside them, alarms blaring louder across the palace. Mechanical gates slammed shut behind them as they ran, sealing off guards temporarily. But Vorik's voice echoed through the palace speakers, calm and venomous. "You cannot run. There is nowhere in this empire you can hide." Elias led them through a service tunnel, dark and narrow, illuminated only by flickering red emergency lights. Ravani breathed heavily. "This was once an escape route for royal heirs. It leads to the old hangar." Elias nodded. "Good. If we reach a ship, we can get off this planet." Lyra tugged Elias's sleeve, whispering, "Do you trust my mother?" Elias glanced at Ravani. "Yes." Lyra looked satisfied. "Then I trust you." Behind them, armored footsteps thundered through the tunnels. Vorik was not chasing blindly. He knew every corridor, every secret passage. He hunted them like prey he had once cornered before. Ravani stumbled slightly, memories flooding back. "The last time I ran through these halls, I was carrying her in my arms, bleeding, praying she would live." Elias steadied her. "This time you are not alone." The tunnel opened into a grand chamber, dark and dusty. An ancient hangar abandoned for centuries. Massive ships rested like sleeping beasts beneath holographic coverings. Symbols written in forgotten languages glowed faintly on their hulls. Elias stared in awe. "These are not Empire ships." Ravani nodded, voice trembling. "No. These belong to the first rulers of the stars." Lyra stepped forward, small feet echoing on metal floors. She placed her hand on one of the ancient vessels. The ship hummed to life, light spreading across its frame like awakening veins. Dust lifted, engines roared, the entire hangar trembled. Elias whispered, "She activated it just by touch." Ravani stared in shock. "I never taught her how." Lyra looked back at them, her eyes glowing bright white now. "I remembered, from before." Elias felt a chill. "Before what?" Lyra blinked slowly. "Before I was born." Before they could process her words, the hangar doors exploded inward, Vorik and his elite soldiers storming in, weapons raised, fury in their eyes. Vorik pointed toward Lyra, shouting, "Capture the girl, kill the rest." Lyra's glow intensified, the ancient ship responding to her heartbeat. Systems powered up, engines roared like ancient gods awakening. Elias tightened his grip on his weapon, standing between enemies and the child once again. The war for her future had truly begun. The ancient hangar shook as the doors collapsed inward, shards of metal flying like broken wings. Vorik marched in with elite soldiers at his side, their armor darker and heavier than before, glowing with red circuitry designed for war, the air filled with burning sparks, engine heat and crackling energy shields. Lyra stood in front of the awakened starship, her hair floating as if gravity forgot her, symbols across her skin glowing white gold with every heartbeat. Vorik raised his blade, voice echoing with fury. You cannot outrun destiny, child. Your blood belongs to the Empire. Ravani pulled Lyra close, her voice shaking but fierce. Her blood belongs to me, and to herself she owes nothing to your empire. Elias stepped in front of them, gripping a captured alien blade, his stance firm. If you want them, you go through me. Vorik sneered. Human bravery is entertaining but pointless. He lifted his hand and dozens of soldiers spread out, surrounding them like a metal cage. The ancient ship behind Lyra continued to awaken. Engines humming, runes lighting up along its wings, ghostly holograms flickered in the air, showing images of lost star systems, ancient battlefields, and human fleets long forgotten. Elias stared in disbelief. These are human ships. Ravani nodded slowly. Yes, but not from this age. These ships belong to the first dawn, when humans ruled parts of the galaxy. Elias turned to her, confused. Why does the Empire hide this? Ravani whispered, because no empire wants competition from history. Lyra lifted her hand toward the hologram and the ship responded, projecting a map across the entire hangar. Stars, nebulae, and ancient trade routes formed a glowing web across the sky. Some systems were marked with golden rings, others crossed out in red. The largest section was labeled in ancient symbols, unreadable to everyone except Lyra. She spoke softly, as if reading from memory rather than thought. Terra Primus? The first home. The words echoed like a forgotten prayer. Elias stepped back, eyes wide. Are you saying humans were here first? Before the Empire? Lyra nodded. Yes, but they fell and the galaxy forgot. Vorik shouted, Silence, child. His voice cracked with anger and fear. He pointed directly at Lyra. You are not the heir of lost humans. You are a weapon created by forbidden unions. Ravani stepped forward, her voice sharp. She is not created, she is born. Vorik's eyes burned. Born of a bloodline that should have died. Elias narrowed his gaze. Why do you fear her so much? Vorik's expression darkened, truth slipping through his rage. Because her blood has the authority to command ancient human war machines. If she awakens fully, she could retake the galaxy and every current ruler would kneel. The hangar fell silent, only the engines humming like ancient hearts. Ravani placed her hand on Lyra's shoulder. I hid her because I did not want another war. Elias looked between them, understanding finally hitting him. You were not exiled because you were weak, you were exiled because you were powerful. Ravani's eyes softened with pain. Power invites cruelty, especially when it comes from those who fear losing control. Vorik tightened his grip on his blade. Enough, the Empire will not bow to a forgotten child. He thrust his hand forward. Soldiers charged at once, energy nets ready to bind Lyra, stun rifles aimed at Elias and Ravani. The air erupted with blue lightning as blasts fired across the hangar. Elias blocked one strike and countered with a precise swing, cutting through armor plates. Ravani dragged Lyra behind fallen crates, shielding her body with her own. Lyra trembled, tears in her glowing eyes. I do not want to rule anyone, I just want to live. Ravani held her face gently. I know, but they will never let you live free until they are forced to. An explosion rocked the floor as the ancient ship released a protective energy field around Lyra, pushing soldiers back. Elias seized the moment, slamming a soldier into a pillar, shouting, Get to the ship, we need to escape. Ravani nodded and pulled Lyra toward the ramp. Vorik lunged forward with unnatural speed, aiming directly for Lyra's heart. Elias intercepted him, blades clashing with sparks that lit the air. Vorik hissed, You fight for a mistake. Elias growled back, No, I fight for a future. Ravani reached the ship entrance, gasping as ancient systems scanned her and Lyra. The hologram shifted to display genetic sequences. Lyra's symbols matched them perfectly. A new projection appeared. An ancient human crest with wings of fire. Ravani whispered, This ship does not see her as a child, it sees her as heir. Lyra stepped closer, exhausted but determined. If I command this ship, it will kill them. Ravani bit her lip, torn. If you do nothing, they will kill us. The ship powered up, weapon systems charging, energy building like a rising storm. Vorik realized what was about to happen and screamed, Stop her now. But Lyra looked at Elias with quiet resolve. You said choosing someone means fighting for them, I choose you too. Her eyes shined like twin stars. The floor vibrated, engines roared as ancient cannons aimed at Vorik's forces. The hangar filled with blinding light as Lyra raised her hand. She whispered one word that echoed across the galaxy like a forgotten command. Awaken. The hangar shook like a rising storm as Lyra's voice echoed through the ancient ship. The runes across her skin flared bright like burning starlight. The vessel responded instantly, engines roaring like awakening gods. Shimmering wings of light spread outward, forming shields that pushed soldiers away in a wave of force. Metal scraped the floor as entire squads slid across the hangar. weapons flying from their hands. Vorik stumbled backward, shock breaking through his arrogance. Impossible, the ancient fleets were locked forever. Lyra's voice grew deeper, layered with something older than her young body. They were waiting for the rightful hand. The ship's cannons unfolded, aiming directly at the Imperial forces. A hum grew louder, energy charging like a sun being born. Elias stepped forward, placing himself between Lyra and Vorik, his blade still raised. "Stand down, Vorik, it's over." Vorik spat on the ground, rage burning through fear. "No, if that child lives, every ruler in this galaxy will kneel to humans again." Elias clenched his fists. "Maybe kneeling is what tyrants deserve." Vorik roared and charged, but the first shot fired before he reached them. A beam of golden light blasted across the hangar, not killing but disarming every soldier. Armor shattered like glass. Weapons fell smoking to the ground. The shockwave knocked Vorik to his knees. Lyra lowered her hand, her glowing eyes softening. "I do not want death." Elias nodded, relieved. "Then stop them without destroying them." Lyra looked at her small palms, then closed her eyes. The ship hummed and released a second wave, gentler this time. Blue mist spread across the chamber like fog. Soldiers collapsed, unconscious but alive. Vorik, shaking, forced himself back up. His armor cracked, face twisted with desperation. "You think mercy will save you?" Rivani stepped forward, no longer hiding, no longer afraid. "Mercy is what makes us different from you." Vorik staggered toward Lyra again, but Elias blocked him with one hand, gripping his collar. Elias whispered close to his ear, "The future will not be written by fear," and slammed him to the floor. Vorik's blade slid away, energy flickered out. He lay defeated, staring up at the ceiling in disbelief. How did history lose to a child?" Elias answered quietly, "History was never lost, it was hushed." Rivani approached her daughter slowly, tears streaming. "Lyra, my brave girl." Lyra leaned into her arms, exhausted, lights fading from her skin. "Did I do something bad?" Rivani shook her head gently. "No, you showed the galaxy that power does not need bloodshed." Elias walked closer, placing a hand on Rivani's shoulder. "Your scars never meant weakness, they meant you survived long enough to bring her into the world." Rivani looked at him with soft gratitude. "You chose me when no one else would." Elias smiled, tired but sincere. "I chose the person everyone ignored and found the future hiding behind her." Outside the palace, ships descended from the sky, not to attack, but to kneel. Word spread faster than any fleet could fly. Ancient human tech had awakened. A child was recognized by ships older than empires, and the Zalorian Empire was forced to bow not to conquerors, but to truth. Council members arrived trembling, robes torn, pride broken. The Emperor himself stepped forward, eyes down. "We wronged you, all of you. The Empire will no longer hunt your bloodline." Rivani stared at him, tired but unafraid. "We are not your weapons." The Emperor nodded slowly. "Then be our bridge." Lyra looked up at the glowing sky, her voice pure. "I do not want to rule the stars, I want humans and aliens to walk them together." The ancient ship hovered behind her like a loyal guardian, waiting for her next word. Elias stood with Rivani and Lyra, united not by duty or law, but choice. The galaxy watched a new era begin, not with war, not with crowns, but with a child who chose kindness even when she held power to destroy worlds. A narrator's voice could speak only one truth. Sometimes the most powerful bloodline is not the one that conquers galaxies, but the one that chooses a future worth living. The engines of the ancient ship rumbled softly, ready to carry them into the unknown. Their journey had just begun.